subject. So in this lecture, we will first go through the instructor contacts, means how you will contact me, then the books that you have to refer for compiler design, then the syllabus, then the course objectives, then course outcomes, then the preliminaries that you require for the understanding of compiler design, then introduction to the course. So instructor contacts. So you know me, I am Sibaram Panigrahi. So if you are having any doubt, you can mail me through spanigrahi@suit.ac.in. My cell number is 7377302566. So you can contact me also via phone in the office hours. Okay. So next, the reference books. So I suggest you, and I will send the link to you for this book, Principle of Compiler Design by Aho and Ullman. Then Modern Compilers by C. Andrew N. Apple. And there are some other reference books also. You can follow any of the books. But I will suggest you to follow Principle of Compiler Design by Aho and Ullman. Okay, I will send you the soft copy through mail also. You can also go through this web link where you are having a very good course on compiler design, which is available in nptel.ac.in. So this is your syllabus. So in suit, all the top subjects are divided into 4 units. Similar to that, here also we have 4 units. In the first unit, we will go through the overview of compilation. Today we will cover this. Then phases of compilation, lexical analysis, regular grammar, regular expression, all these things. Then we will go through syntax analysis, then top-down parsing, bottom-up parsing, syntax-directed translation, symbol table, intermediate code generation, then the runtime environment, code generation, and the elements of code optimization. So throughout this course, we will cover all the topics that is mentioned in your syllabus. Next, the objective of the course is to learn what are the various stages of compilation. Then the design phases of compiler construction process. So what are the 6 phases of compiler that we will go through clearly. Then this course will also introduce open source tools like Lex and YSEC. We will go through all these things. So after the completion of the course, a student should specify and analyze the lexical, syntactic, and semantic structure of advanced language features. So we will go through what is lexical, syntactic, and semantic in the course more elaborately. Then they can separate the lexical, syntactic, semantic analysis into meaningful phases. Then they can also write a scanner or parser or semantic analyzer without aid of or without help of any automatic generators. Next, preliminaries. In order to understand compiler design, you should have the knowledge of data structure. You should have the knowledge of theory of computation that you have studied in the last semester. Data structure, I hope you have studied in the second semester. And any high-level programming language as well as assembly-level programming language. So high-level programming language like Java, so Python. So these languages, out of these, I hope you have studied at least one language. Then assembly language, in computer architecture, you have already studied the assembly languages. So you do have the preliminaries to understand compiler design. So now, what exactly a programming language is? So a programming language is used to communicate with the computer. So there are various categories of programming languages. So based on the level of abstraction and control and flexibility, the programming languages are classified into 3 categories. One is high level language, one is low level language, and those languages which supports both the features of high level and low level language are termed as middle level language. So here there is a term that is called as level of abstraction. So what is it? What does it mean? So abstraction means representing the essential features without knowing the background details. It means if you will write integer a, so what happens internally for a, 4 bytes are occupied in the memory. But being a programmer, if a beginner beginner programmer, he might not know, he or she might not know that 4 bytes are allocated, how from which location the 4 bytes are allocated. So without knowing those things, he is able to write a program and solve a particular task. So this is called as abstraction. Means we will use the things, but without knowing the underlying details. So when the level of programming language is more, then the level of abstraction is high. In high level programming languages, the user may not know or might not know the underlying details, but still he can write the programs. Whereas in low level language, the level of abstraction is pretty low. Low level language like assembly level language, or machine level language, the programmer has to know where the data is stored or from where the data need to be retrieved. I hope all of you have used the instructions like STA. STA means store accumulator 4500H. It means what? It will store the value of the accumulator at 4500 memory location. So you have already used instructions like this: add R1 comma R2. It means what? It will do this operation. R1 equal to R1 plus R2. So it will add R1 plus R2 and it will store the value inside the register R1. So these two codes what I have written. These are the codes of assembly language. So similarly, so many codes of assembly language you have already studied in computer architecture. Okay, so here you see the level of abstraction is pretty low in low level languages. You need to know where the data is stored, from where we have to retrieve it, which register is used to store a value, and after the operation where the data should be stored. Whereas in high level language you should not worry regarding all these things. You simply write integer a equal to 5, b, then you can write b equals to a plus b. So let me take a value b equal to 6. So b equal to a plus b means you don't know where the values are stored, but still you are able to perform the operations. So here the level of abstraction is pretty high. So in high level language, level of abstraction is pretty high, whereas in low level language, the level of abstraction is pretty low. Whereas control and flexibility, you see, if you want to operate on bit level, then that you can do at the low level languages, whereas that you can't do in high level languages. Whereas the middle level language like C supports the operations at bit level, that is, we are doing the bit fields we have studied in structure, so there we can operate on bit level. Okay, so these languages which supports the feature of both high level language and low level language are termed as middle level language. But you know that the computers understands only binary level language, but we are writing the programs in high level or middle level languages. Why we are writing the programs in high level and middle level languages? Because the development time will be so less, or you can develop the programs so easily and so fastly, so that you can meet the business requirements. Whereas if you will write a program by using low level language like assembly level language or machine level language, it will require huge amount of time to write the programs. So we are using high level and middle level languages to write the programs. So the high level and middle level languages are not directly understood by the machine. So what we will do, we will use some translators like compilers, interpreters to translate the high level and middle level language into functional equivalent target level language. Similarly, we will use a translator that is called as assembler to translate the low level languages like assembly level language into functional equivalent machine level language. So here you see there comes a term translator. So what exactly a translator is? A translator is a system software. So it is a system software which translates source language into functionally equivalent target level language. So translators, there are basically three kinds of translators. One is assembler, compiler, and interpreter. So what is assembler? Assembler translates assembly level language into functionally equivalent machine level language. So here the important term is functionally equivalent. Let me tell you one simple example. Suppose I want to translate from English to Hindi. So I have written I go to college. So this is English language. I want to translate it into Hindi. So मैं भात खाता हूँ. So now you see here I have translated from English to Hindi. But you see both the sentences are not functional equivalent. So it means what? It is not a perfect translator. So a perfect translator should do what? It should translate one level language into functionally equivalent another level language. So if I will write मैं college जाता हूँ. So now you see this is perfect, okay, because the source language and target language both are functionally equivalent. So assembler is a translator which translates assembly level language into functionally equivalent. So I hope all of you have understood the importance of functionally equivalent machine level language. Whereas compiler and interpreter translates high level or middle level language into functionally equivalent machine level language. So here you see high level or middle level language into a functionally equivalent machine level language. So both the compiler and the interpreter translates high level or middle level language into functionally equivalent target level language. So if both are doing the same thing, there must be some difference between compiler and interpreter. So let us go through the difference between compiler and interpreter. So before going through this text, let me give you one example so that you can easily understand. So let me translate one, let me become a translator who will translate English to Hindi. So let me write a sentence. I goes to college every day. Then I eat rice. Okay, let me just translate these two English statements into Hindi. So before translating, what I have to do, I have to check whether this source language is correct or not. So I goes, here goes I cannot write. This is a syntax error. So I have to eliminate it. So first, while translating, I will check whether there is any error in the source language or not. If there is any error, it will show the errors. A good compiler should show the errors, and the programmer should rectify the errors. So once the errors are corrected in the source language, then the translation process can begin. I go to college every day. मैं रोज कॉलेज जाता हूँ. I eat rice. मैं भात खाता हूँ. So now you see here I have translated the source language, that is English, into a functionally equivalent target language that is called as Hindi. Okay. So here I have taken the target language as Hindi. Then what I have done, I have stored it in a file that is called as hindi.txt. So now you see what I have done. I have first translated each English sentence into Hindi sentence. Then I have written it and stored it in a file text hindi.txt. Then after the translation process is over, then I am starting my execution. मैं रोज कॉलेज जाता हूँ, मैं भात खाता हूँ. Okay, so this is the job of a compiler. So what I have told you right now, this is the job of a compiler. Whereas in case of interpreter, what it will do, it will not create a separate file. What it will do, it will just go to read one sentence, I go to college every day. Then it will translate, मैं रोज कॉलेज जाता हूँ. Then it will forget this one. Then again it will read the next sentence, I eat rice. मैं भात खाता हूँ. Excuse me. Then it will translate it into Hindi. Then again it will forget it. So this way the interpreter does what? An interpreter reads one instruction or line of source code at a time, converts this line into a machine code, then executes it. So first it will read a sentence or line of code from the source file, then it will translate it into the target file, or here our target file, target language is machine code, then it executes it. So मैं रोज कॉलेज जाता हूँ. Then after that, what it does, the machine code is then discarded, then it forgets the previous machine code, and the next line is read. So next line it will read, I eat rice, मैं भात खाता हूँ. Then again it will forget it, then it will read the next sentence. So this process will go on. Whereas in case of compiler, what it does, a compiler reads the whole source code and translates it into a complete machine code program, which is output as a new file. So here you see there is a, so after the translation is over, in case of compiler, it will create a new file. So I hope all of you have studied C programming language. So after you have written a C programming language, then you are compiling it. cc space file name dot c. So once you will compile it, then what happens? It translates the C file into an object file, then it stores in Linux a.out. If you will not give a name to the object file, then it will by default store in a.out. But if you are using interpreter, no intermediate file will be created. Whereas in case of compiler, after translation of whole source code is over, it stores the translated code into a separate file. You see, after translation of whole program is over, it starts execution. This completely separates the source code from the executable file, and as execution is done on the intermediate object file. So whenever if you are using a compiler, it will create an intermediate file, and whenever you want to execute it, then what you have to do? You do not have to translate it. You have to translate it only once, store it in a separate file. What you will do? You will execute it. मैं रोज कॉलेज जाता हूँ, मैं भात खाता हूँ. No need to translate. Okay, you have to translate only once in case of compiler. Whereas in case of interpreter, what you will do? Every time you have want to execute it, you have to translate it, because after translation it forgets the previous code and then the next line is read. So this is the difference between compiler and interpreter. I hope all of you have understood the first point. Next, the biggest advantage of compiler is that the translation is done once only. So only once the translation is done, because after translation it stores the translated file into a separate file and as a separate process. The program that is run is already translated into a machine code, so it's much faster in execution, because first you have translated it, then in case of compiler, first you have translated it, then stored it inside a separate file. So every time when you want to execute it, no need to translate, because you have translated only once. Then you just have to read the translated file. In case of the previous example, you just have to read hindi.txt. No need to again translate, again translate. Every time you want to execute, you just have to execute the translated file. Similarly, in case of interpreter, the advantage of this is that it's simple, because you are not concerning regarding the whole program. Whereas in case of compiler, you are concerning regarding the whole program, because after completion of translation, you can execute. Whereas in case of interpreter, you have to translate a single line, then you have to execute it. Then you can forget it, then you read the next sentence, translate it, execute it, forget it. Translate it, execute it, forget it. So it's simple, because you are translating a single line, then executing it, then forgetting it. And you can interrupt it while it is running. So you see, in case of this, if I will write, I go to college, I eat rice. So you see, I go to college, while you are translating it, you can also change this, I eat dal. Okay, so here you can change it while you are executing it in case of interpreter. Whereas in case of compiler, if you are writing a, if you are writing something, you are writing a source file. So after the source file is translated, it creates a separate file, let's say a.out. Then if you want to change, if you want to execute, you are not looking at the source file, you are looking at the translated file, you are executing it. So you might have encountered a problem like this. While writing a C program, you have written a C program, you have changed it, but you have forgotten to compile it, you have executed it. So if you will execute it, it will not reflect the change, because you haven't translated it. So in C programming, where every time you want to change, you have to change the source file, then you have to translate. Then the changes will take effect. Whereas in case of interpreter, while you are executing, you can change and that change will reflect. So change the program and either continue or start again. Next, in case of compiler, the disadvantage is that you cannot change the program without going back to the original source code. So this I have already told you, and editing that and recompiling through a professional software. So similarly, in case of interpreter, what is the disadvantage? The disadvantage is that every line has to be translated every time it is executed because it is not storing in a separate file. It is translating, executing, then forgetting. Okay. So every time you want to execute, every time you have to translate it. Next, compilers, it is difficult to find errors, whereas in case of interpreters, it is easier to find errors. Because in interpreter, you are concerning regarding a single line of code inside your source file, whereas in case of compiler, you are concerning regarding all the lines of code in the source file. So here, you might get correlation of errors. You might have encountered it in C programming. Suppose you have forgotten to put a semicolon. So for that, it may generate 2-3 errors. So when you will put a single semicolon, it's over. Whereas in case of interpreter, as you are concerning regarding a single line of statement, so if you are getting an error in that line, you have to concern regarding the same line. You should not have to worry regarding the other lines. Next, types of compilers. So there are basically two types of compilers based on which, so whenever you are classifying, there must be one criteria. So what is the criteria over here? Two types of compilers are there based on for which machine it produces the object code. It means what? So the two types are native compiler and cross compiler. So native compiler means what? Native compilers are compilers that run on one machine and produces object code for the same machine. For example, in Linux, you are using GCC. In GCC, you are you are trying to run the compiler, GCC compiler in Linux operating system, and it produces the object code for Linux operating system so that the Linux operating system will understand the target code. So such type of compiler are called as native compiler. Native compiler means that runs on one machine and produces object code for the same machine. So the machine on which you are executing or compiling the program, it will generate the machine code for the same machine. Whereas cross compilers means what? It is a compiler that run on one machine and produces object code for another machine. So it runs, suppose it runs for Linux environment. The compiler runs on Linux environment, but it produces object code for Windows environment. So in that case, that compiler is called as a cross compiler. So a simple notation is there. So here you see SIT. SIT means S is the source language, T is the target language, I is the implementation language. So here you see if S, so this is represented in the T diagram SIT. So in case of native compiler, what it should be? It should be SIS. Both the source and target language are same. Whereas in case of cross compiler, what it should be? SI, here it is P. Means it runs on one machine but produces object code for machine P. So I hope all of you have understood the difference between native compiler and cross compiler. Next, some fundamentals. Bootstrapping. So what is bootstrapping? Bootstrapping is obtaining a compiler for a language L by writing the compiler code in the same language. So you see, compiler is also a software. So it must be also written by using any programming language. Suppose you want to write a compiler for C language. So for that language, you can use C language to write a compiler. So if you are doing so, that is called as bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means obtaining a compiler for a language L, let's say the language is C, by writing the compiler code. So the compiler software is written itself by using the same language L, that is C. Means you are trying to develop a C compiler by using C language. Then that is called as bootstrapping. Then what is decompiler? It is a program which translates machine level language into functionally equivalent high level language. So you see compiler job is what? It translates high level or middle level language into functionally equivalent low level language. Whereas what is the job of a decompiler? It is a program which translates the reverse process, which translates the machine level language into functionally equivalent high level language. Then source to source translator, a compiler that translates a high level language into functionally equivalent another high level language. Means one high level to another high level. Suppose you want to translate from C to or C++ to Java, then that is called as a source to source translator. So C is a high level language, Java is a high level language. If you have developed a translator which will translate one high level language, that is C++, to another high level language, that is Java, then that is called as source to source translator. So with these preliminaries, today we will conclude.